Hello YouTube, Mike at Carbonite Lab here, back again talking about Star Wars RPG. This is going to be part 2 of my vlog series of Star Wars role-playing game. In this section specifically, we're going to talk about building a character, even more specifically to narrow the focus, choosing a character species. So when it comes to choosing a species, it's actually pretty important when you decide on which species you want to play, because you have to think about the era in which you're going to be playing the Star Wars game. Now, a lot of that will be determined by the game master himself and what era he chooses, but there are 3 distinct eras of play, and right here in the black section of this little sidebar here, it talks about the 3 eras. You have the Rise of the Empire era, which is 50 years before the Battle of Yavin, Episode 4. You have also the Rebellion era, which is from the Battle of Yavin to about 5 years afterwards. And then you have the New Jedi Order era, which is about 25 years plus after the Battle of Yavin. The Battle of Yavin is used many times over again in the Star Wars RPG, or even on the history of it, as 0 on the timeline. Think about your biblical studies. They refer to 0 as being the time that Jesus was alive, and everything before then was BC, everything after then was AD. So if the Battle of Yavin was 0 on the time scale, everything before with the Old Republic was considered before the Battle of Yavin, everything afterwards was after the Battle of Yavin. So back to species. Now we got the page open again here, and we start off with humans. Well, that's because humans are the most common species that you're going to find in the Star Wars galaxy. Humans are the preferred race in the time of the Empire, especially because most other races that are not considered human were subjugated. For example, let's say you wanted to play a Wookiee, and the game master is deciding to run this campaign that he's going to put you in during the time of the rebellion, just before the Empire reveals that they have the Death Star. Well, if you're going to play a Wookiee in that era, it's actually very rare that you would find a free Wookiee running about doing his thing. Chewbacca was an exception to the rule. As a matter of fact, Chewbacca was actually a slave before he was freed by Han Solo, and thus incurred the life debt in which Chewbacca began to follow him around and become his sidekick. So again, it's important. You're going to find more humans than any other race in the galaxy. You also have a Bothan you could choose from. Bothans are known for their ability to deal information. They prefer to actually stay out of a fight if they can. They would rather use the information that they obtain to manipulate things from behind the scenes to further their development, their societal or their cultural gains. Now, it is important to notice that when it comes to a human, for example, there's no extra benefits you get for being a human, with the exception of you get an extra feat when you start to build your character at first level. And we'll get to feats later, but feats are something that your character can gain as like a knowledge or a skill that's like an automatic. So a Bothan, for example, some of his species traits are he gets a +2 to dexterity because they're kind of small and spindly and they're kind of easy to hide, but they also get a -2 to constitution. So they're not that very strong. They're actually because they're small, they can't hold up very well in a fight. So there's pluses and minuses with each of these species. Let's turn the page, and you have Syrians. Syrians are, you'll remember in going to the older, not the older, but the newer versions of Star Wars, when you go into the prequels, and you have the Jedi sitting on the council, who is the Syrian. These guys, they have a binary brain system. So because of that, their species and trait is that they get a +2 to intelligence, +2 to wisdom. Because of their shape and whatnot of their head, they're going to get a -2 to dexterity, because obviously the head like that, you're not going to be very quick to move around. It's going to kind of get in the way a little bit. So certain things you're going to get from being a Syrian. They also get a +2 species bonus on initiative checks, despite their superior despite their general lack of coordination, Syrians' reaction speed is superior to that of most other species, mainly because they can use both halves of their brains to figure out a situation and get themselves in and out of trouble. You have a Duro here. Duros are pretty common. They're known for being spacers. They get a +2 dexterity bonus, +2 intelligence bonus, but they get a -2 to strength and -2 to constitution because they're not very hardy. They're not meant to go into a fight. But this race from day one, these guys have explored the stars. So as a bonus, Duros get the spacer feat for free when they first start off. So pretty cool. Then you have your Ewoks here. Everybody knows what an Ewok is. Although it's worth noting, I've never seen actually anybody play an Ewok in a campaign. And I think it's due to mainly because, well, they're not really that good at a whole lot of stuff. And they're kind of isolated to the moon of Endor, which automatically, puts it in a certain era of play. And, well, I mean, they don't really speak basic. And they don't really fly planes. They're very primitive. So you don't feel like finding too many people playing an Ewok, but consequently, if you do, you'll get a +2 dexterity modifier, but a -2 strength modifier. They're very agile and they're good with ranged weapons, but their small size makes them use smaller weapons. So they're going to have the ability to use primitive weapons and simple weapons and things like that. So you have your Gomorian Guards, or Gomorians, I should say, known for being a Gomorian Guard. Jabba's henchmen, so to speak, his bodyguards. Now these guys are kind of like the orcs of the Star Wars universe. And of course, they got the awesome pig face to them with the big snarling teeth and the drool that constantly just runs from their jowls. But because of their size and strength, they'll get a +2 strength modifier, but they're going to get a -2 dexterity modifier and a -2 intelligence modifier because they're not known for being too smart. They're known for being the muscle. This is a species that they constantly trying to put themselves in harm's way. They like to be at war at all times, and they will usually sell their services out to the highest bidder as like a bodyman or bodyguard or somebody who's looking to go out and basically break some legs for somebody because they got the muscle to back it up. You got your Gungans here. Gungans, again, known for episode 1 with Jar Jar Binks, the comedic element of the movie. But Gungans aren't a bad species in this book. As far as a character to choose it, they get a +2 Constitution. They get a -2 Wisdom. They're not very smart, but they're very hardy. They can also hold their breath for a long time. They can swim really, really well. They have low light vision. They get a +2 species bonus on listen checks. Despite their low wisdom, they've got extraordinary hearing. They also get a +1 bonus on reflex saves. Gungans have an uncanny ability to avoid danger. So really, I mean, aside from what we all know about Gungans and Jar Jar Binks, they're not a bad species to choose. You have Ithorians. Ithorians, they're kind of like the long-haired, hippie, tree-loving, guys of the 60s and whatnot, because they're very nature-oriented. They prefer to stay out of a fight as well. They believe more in the mother jungle on the planet that they come from. They believe in nature being allowed to flourish as it is.